Welcome to the Breaking News Bears podcast. I'm your host, Chris Capone, joined alongside my co-host once again, Evan Davis. And the Minnesota Twins are blazing hot right now. In the Twin Cities, there's been 11 straight wins for a team that many had written off in a stacked AL Central and are now surprising everyone with how competitive they've been blowing out teams. We'll once again be talking about the Baltimore Orioles, whom have mightily struggled and currently have the second worst record in the American League. Only the White Sox have a worse record than them. And lastly, we'll be discussing some early season trade candidates that some teams could have their eyes on, along with predictions on where they could possibly end up. But first, Evan, I'll ask you, how did the concussions suffered by Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton impact the Twins heading into the weekend?
Well, yeah, it's definitely not good and but you look at this Minnesota Twins team and it just feels like they're invincible, but to lose two players of that caliber in Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa who have really been doing well as of late, and Byron Buxton just hit his 10th home run yesterday. This is a guy who we always knew was a top 15, 20 player in baseball. The only thing holding him back were injuries. But and you look at it even this season, he led the team in batting average, home runs, RBIs, hits. Like this is a huge piece of their lineup that's going to be missing. And being in concussion protocol is probably going to be a 7-day IL stint. So I don't think it's going to be that massive, but you look at a guy like Trevor Larnach, who has really picked up the pace as of late. Ty France is kind of having a resurgence. It felt like with the Reds, he didn't really do much. And again, only a 677 OPS, but a guy that has a 316 on base percentage, a 250 batting average, 21 RBIs. He's doing solid. They have some, Harrison Bader's also having a resurgence. We know how great he is defensively, but offensively. He's been doing a solid. Brooks Lee, like they have pieces that could keep it up, but it's just a matter of like, man, how long are Correa and Buxton out for? And if it's a bit of time, then thank God they were winning all these games when they were.
Yeah, thank God that Royce Lewis came back at the perfect time. He's been out for a majority of the season. He recently
Mhm.
came back not too long ago. Obviously it's slow picking it up from from his injury, come back from his IL stint. But yeah, it's just like they can never have all three of them healthy at the same time. It's crazy. It's like it it's only ever like two or three. I don't know if you've ever seen like the GIF where it's like they keep trying to click the three things and one keeps
Yeah,
shutting off. It's like
yeah,
Royce Lewis, Carlos Correa, Byron Bucks, and none of them, they all three can't be on the thing on the
yeah.
field at the same time. But like I said, very important loss for the Twins. 11 straight wins. It's not easy, but it is kind of easy when you're playing the Orioles six times
Yeah.
in that stretch. But also they did have a doubleheader, which it's really tough to sweep a doubleheader no matter who you're playing.
Hmm.
Just because fatigue sets in. But
Hmm.
the Twins have been like honestly really shocking just because they were dead in the water. They were 13 and 20. I don't think anyone really thought, oh wow, like they're gonna end up, doing anything. But they took a series against Boston. Obviously, I said, yeah, they beat the Orioles six times in that stretch. But they swept the Giants, and that was
Yeah.
a really important series where that's where I thought, okay, this is where like they would lose a game to the Giants. No, they swept them, and that's really huge for them. And it's kind of been, they swapped basically like since those games, the Twins have just been like unstoppable. The pitching's
Hmm.
been insane. Pablo Lopez has been absolutely nails. Uh, they have the pitching staff to really fortify this lineup. Johan Duran's had a really good bounce back season, a .84 ERA. He's, something about these AL Central closers. You have Emmanuel Clase last year and now Johan Duran this year, where it's like under one ERA, like absolutely nails guys. Johan Duran throws like a 100 mile per hour splitter. It's
Hmm.
really nasty stuff. But the rest of these guys in the starting rotation have been pretty solid for them. You have Joe Ryan, who's healthy again. Bailey Ober's been pretty solid in his occasional starts. Chris Paddock is somebody who, no one really thought of as doing much, but he's been efficient for them.
Hmm.
But yeah, this entire Twins pitching staff right now has been pretty nails. And this is even with the guy like Griffin Jacks, who's really struggled this year compared to how good he was the previous 3 years.
Yeah, to your last point of that, like I always thought of Griffin Jacks as like a beautiful trade candidate for a contending team where like that's a perfect eighth inning guy or like a seventh inning high leverage guy. But you look at this season and it's just he's really struggled out of the gates. But the strikeouts are still there for him. But and the K per nine is still consistent like it was last year. It's just giving up a lot more hits and a lot less innings than what we're used to seeing. But I mean, to your point about the Minnesota Twins with everyone else, this is a really, really solid team. Now, I do think they're a piece or two away from being a serious contender. Like when it comes to the October times of the calendar and um, you look at even September as well. Am I really trusting Brooks Lee and Willie Castro? Like, I don't know. Christian Vasquez, I don't know. He's a backup catcher, obviously, but you always need to split time with him and Ryan Jeffers. Harrison Bader, we've seen the highest of highs and the lowest of lows with him. So while this team could potentially make a wild card, I definitely think they're like a piece or two away from being a well put together all around team when healthy.
Yeah, and they, like you said, a lot of these guys, they're just not really doing much for me, and I don't know how much they'll be doing when it comes the postseason time.
Yeah.
But like I said, or like obviously Buxton and Correa need to be healthy, and Royce Lewis. They need to have all three of these guys healthy if they seriously want to make a deep push at all. Like
Yeah.
that's the most important thing, to have all of them healthy.
Hmm.
But moving on, we're going to talk about a team that no matter, even if they're healthy, they've been kind of buns. The Baltimore Orioles have just been absolutely atrocious this year. Like I said earlier in the opening, only the White Sox have a worse record than them in the AL, and they're not even that far apart record wise. Where it's like, oh, in the NL, the Pirates have the second worst record, but the Rockies are 8 games below them. It's not
Hmm.
like that. They're only separated by a game and a half between them and the White Sox. The Baltimore Orioles have been trash this year. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to say that they've been swept. This is a team that had went however many series in a row without getting swept, and now they've been swept twice by the Minnesota Twins. It's like they've gone so long without losing. It's just a disgrace. They've looked really bad. They had a game in Baltimore against the Kansas City Royals, who had at the time the least amount of home runs in baseball, and they gave up 8 in a single game. Like this pitching staff is being headlined by a 36-year-old rookie who came over from Japan and is
Yeah.
the ace of their rotation right now because everyone else has a career 5 ERA. It's
Yeah.
or has a 5
Season
ERA for
ERA.
the season ERA. It's an atrocious pitching staff.
Hmm.
Cade Povich, Charlie Morton has been going from spot starts to bulk inning appearances because he's
Hmm.
42 years old. He just doesn't have it anymore.
Hmm.
But there's no one else that the Orioles can look at right now. It's just embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best at the end, embarrassing. And I think, and you know what? This is exactly what ownership deserves. Like, they are too cheap to pay anyone. And you had Corbin Burns. Sure, you had Jack Flaherty at one point. He didn't really like Baltimore. It's not a great park for pitchers. Whatever. You had him, you lost him. You gave up a nice prospect in Joey Ortiz for Corbin Burns, and you only could keep him for a season. And like, let's be honest here. It's not like Corbin Burns got overpaid by the Arizona Diamondbacks. Like, sure, you could say that he wanted to be closer to home, but he also said in the same breath that like the Orioles didn't even come close to offering what the Diamondbacks had offered. And I'm sure with Corbin Burns and having a young child, the last thing you want to do is move. Like you don't want to go from Milwaukee to being in Baltimore for only a year to then now having to pack up your stuff again to go to Arizona. Like it made so much sense for him to stay, build out his family there. But for him to say, like, yeah, the Diamondbacks came with a 6 year deal and the Orioles only wanted to give me 4 years, it's like, well, like, why? But like, why would you only want to give him a 4 year deal? Because even if he gives you a 3.5 ERA or even close to a four, like, who cares? It's Corbin Burns. Like, it's someone that people are going to want to see. And then you bring over Sugano from the KBO who couldn't even strike out guys then. And like, I guess now he's starting to pick it up a little bit. But at one point, he had 9 strikeouts through like his first 7 starts. And like now he's starting to pick things up again strikeout wise, but like, am I trusting him? I mean, they're not going to make it to October, so who cares? But like, would you have even trusted a guy like this? Like, I don't know. He had 8 strikeouts his last 2 games after having like eight, and then he had the 8 strikeout game against the Yankees. But if you look at it, through his first 4 starts, he had 8 total strikeouts.
Yeah.
That is just terrible. And then Charlie Morton, like, man, I loved you on the Braves, and you were a great number 4, number 5. But as they always say, Father Time is undefeated. And I think what really gets lost, but still doesn't get lost at the same time is the Trevor Rogers trade. I mean,
Yeah.
we need an APB out for this guy. Where in God's name is he? Like, where the hell are you? And you look at the Miami Marlins, and I even said this, I think, when we did the trade deadline stuff last year, like, this is going to be a scary team in 5 years. Because you look at Agustin Ramirez, you look at Kyle Stowers, who just had 2 home runs and a triple, almost had 3 home runs based on the ballpark against the Cubs, and you look at Connor Norby, who's doing a solid. Like, man, the Orioles could kill for that offense right now with how bad things are going over there for them. And Trevor Rogers, is he in AAA? Like,
He
where is
is.
he? Where
He's
is
in
Trevor
AAA right.
Rogers?
Trevor Rogers in AAA right now. He's given up 8 runs in 9 innings, in 3 separate starts. It's not
It's
like
just
it's not looking good for him.
like
It's
that is, and you know what? Shame on ownership, shame on the GM. I don't care that I want a job in sports media. I can call out people if I want to. That was just, we knew from the second that trade happened, we're like, okay, Kyle Stowers, sure, he might not be MLB ready yet, but give it some time. And then we see Connor Norby, and you're like, Connor Norby? Like, what are we doing?
yeah. It's you. He's obviously you have Kyle Stowers on your fantasy team, and he's killing me right now. Uh, this week against me, but like I don't get why this whole deal came across where it's like, well, now we have Trevor Rogers, and this was supposed to be their postseason push acquisition last year. This was
Yeah.
supposed to be, yeah, we need a starting pitcher. Let's go trade for Trevor Rogers. Well,
Hmm.
what the hell are we doing? Like, this is not the guy. This is not the guy you wanted. You wanted
Yeah.
someone else. I'm sure other teams would have been lining up for Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers,
Yeah.
but now it's all right. I guess we just got to deal with Trevor Rogers for however long. I don't even care if there's arbitration or a deal, like how many years he has left of control. He's not worth that asking price. And now you already see with Kyle Stowers popping off this season, like the deal's already lost. Like I don't know what needs to be done on the side of Trevor Rogers to actually make this deal worth it for the Orioles. Like he's gonna have to turn into goddamn Cy Young at this point if he wants to replace the production of Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers. I don't care if the Marlins never even make a playoff game. This trade has been or is going to go down as one of the worst trades in franchise history for the Orioles just because of what you gave up and what you got back. You gave up 2 young, promising players for a guy who isn't that good. Like
Hmm.
that won't really separate you from other teams, even when he's healthy.
Yeah, and when you look at it, even when we're like Kyle Stowers this year, 40 games played, 10 home runs, 29 RBIs, a 300 batting average with a 946 OPS. Like, if you look at the Baltimore Orioles roster, I don't think there's anyone in their starting lineup that has an OPS over 800. And it's just this, and I think this is fair to say that, like, this collection of young talent, this might be one of the worst managed collections of young talent we have ever seen, because there's no sense of direction with this team. Like, there's really none. And we haven't even got into Adley Rutschman yet. He's been horrible. I mean, just
Yeah.
absolutely horrible. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they play him every day, which they can't. Like, it doesn't cost that much to get a backup catcher. That's why with Will Smith and the Dodgers, and I'm going to compare him because Will Smith has the highest batting average by a catcher this season, they play him. They play him 3 days in a row, and then he gets a day off. And then he never plays on Sundays because that's always the afternoon game, and there's the night game on Saturday. That's been known since he's come to the Dodgers. They've figured out, they finally got rid of Austin Barnes. There is a God. Appreciate you. But they got to do something like that because if you look at it, and I remember seeing a stat about it, but I couldn't believe it, so I Googled it again. In Adley Rutschman's last 100 regular season games, he has an OPS of 589. That is
Wow.
league average is like what, 700, maybe even 625? It's whatever it is. 589 is well below league average. And we're talking about this guy in what his ceiling is, potentially being a $200 million catcher. I think he's killing, like, I don't think he's killing his value. I think the organization is because he's played in almost every single game this season. And I don't think that's the way we need to be doing things here with Adley Rutschman because you can't keep batting him in the three hole thinking this is the Adley Rutschman of old. And although Will Smith has only played five less games than Rutschman has, I think it's just the structure of the way that the Dodgers have handled it is what's allowed Will Smith to continue to be a great hitter as well as a very solid defender behind the plate.
I mean, yeah, you just look at it where it's like look in the Orioles' own division where you have Austin Wells playing 37 of the Yankees 43 games. And it's still like, okay, well, he's gonna DH a lot. Adley Rutschman has played 40 of the Orioles' 42 games.
Yeah.
He's basically almost he's only missed two games this year. And that's you're killing the guy. Like the guy is gonna he's gonna die. Like it's not healthy for him to constantly play. Alejandro Kirk has been one of the better catchers this year, and he's played 33 of the Jays' 43 games.
Mhm.
Like you got to think about it where they need to just say, "Hey, we signed Gary Sanchez. We can afford a couple days where Adley can take over." And the thing is, the Orioles lineup has been so bad that they're like, "Well, we can't even really bench Adley because who are we going to put in the DH? Like, we'll have Ryan O'Hearn, and then we'll have like what Ramon Laureano playing. Like, there's no one else
Call
they
up one
really
of your
have.
17 prospects that are.
Yeah, it's called one of your white guys with mullets that you have like an abundance of. Um, but yeah, it's just like this entire staff, like their OPS as a team is 677. The batting average as a team is 226. They're just an anemic offense with a terrible pitching staff. There is no redeeming qualities of this team right now,
Mhm.
besides Gunnar Henderson kind of picking it up a little after his IL stint. Everyone else, it's like no one's really doing anything for me.
Mhm.
But you let go of Anthony Santander, and he's kind of been doing shit for the Jays. But you replace him with Tyler O'Neill, who had an IL stint, and he's also been kind of bad
Mhm.
since opening weekend. Yeah, since opening week, he hasn't really done anything. It's just this entire team from top to bottom is just disappointing.
Yeah, and you just wonder, like they had, like the Orioles have Samuel Basallo, like in AAA with a 911 OPS so far. Why not just call him up? Like he has great fielding. His arm is graded at a 70 out of 80. His fielding is poor, but he hits the ball well. He has a 60 graded power. I just don't get what's stopping them from calling him up at this point because if you don't believe in the other catchers, I mean, at the very least, you could potentially believe in this guy. I mean, they gave him a lot of money to come to their organization, and he's batting 253 through 23 games. He's got seven home runs. I mean, I just have him do what the Dodgers are doing with Dalton Rushing. Play him like twice or three times a week, and that's all you really need. Like even twice a week could do wonders for Adley.
Yeah, it's just this team is just sad, and it's crazy how you went from two good years. 2024, you were second in the AL East, 91 and 71, but then the year before that, you were first with 101 wins, no playoff wins, not a single playoff win with one of the youngest cores in baseball, and now you've gone from one of the best records in baseball to the second worst record in the AL. Like
Hmm.
it's it's a steep decline, and at what point do they fire Brandon Hyde? Like it's a genuine question. What point are they gonna say, all right, clearly something's gone wrong, like it's gone bad. We just gotta cut loose at this point.
I don't know how you can fire him really because like he's been given nothing.
I know,
But when
but
you like when he came into this season, he probably went up to ownership and was like, "What the hell do you want me to do with this starting rotation?" I mean, I don't have an ace. Like I don't have anyone. Cade Povich, I mean, how much more time are they going to give him in the majors until they figure out that he's just not, he's a quadruple A pitcher. Like
Yeah.
perfect for Korea, not good for the major leagues. And Dean Kramer is like okay, but he's a 4 or 5. And Sugano, like no. And Charlie Morton's 41. And when I saw that he got 15 million, I'm like, damn, the Orioles are desperate. Like they are just starving right now. I don't think
Yeah.
this is on Brandon Hyde. I think this is just a Bud Black situation where it's like what do you want him to do? Like he doesn't have a team. Like he doesn't have a good team.
Yeah, I know, but some and what we talk about with Baltimore Orioles ownership, sometimes they're just gonna bite the bullet and say, "Well, we're losing, so it's got to be on the coach. It's got to be on the
Yeah.
manager. It doesn't matter who it is. It's just the man. It can't be the players. You can't scapegoat they need a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And if the Orioles finish like 70 and 90 or 92 or something, and it's like they would fire Brandon Hyde and say we need a cultural reset or something like that. We need
Yeah.
something to change. It's just that's how I think it'll go down.
Hmm.
Lastly, we're going to talk about some trade candidates and potential aligning spots for each of them. Uh, one of the guys we have lined up here is Luis Robert Jr., who, despite with a terrible batting average this year, 184 batting average, he's still viewed at as one of the top targets in baseball. As you know, a guy who can still play center field kind of well. He's had a couple home run robberies this year, but most people, I think, once they would make a trade, they would kind of slide him to a corner outfield spot.
Hmm.
But when we talk about with Luis Robert Jr., 17 stolen bases this year, leading the league in stolen bases. So he has the speed threat. But what teams do you really see as kind of good landing spots for Luis Robert Jr.?
Yeah, I mean, this one kills me to say it, but I think the San Diego Padres are going to pick up the phone and call the White Sox again, asking for Luis Robert Jr. And although they don't have the prospect capital that other teams might have, they have a glaring need for outfield help. You have Jackson Merrill, but outside of that, I mean, it's kind of rough. Jason Hayward's played in 29 games. Obviously, you have Fernando Tatis Jr. out in right and Merrill out in center. But if you're talking about a corner outfield spot for a contending team, why not Luis Robert Jr.? And I think the Padres could even fire back and just say, like, look, we're kind of taking a risk on this guy because one, he has injury concerns. He's had trouble staying healthy. He's never gone to October. We don't know what he's going to be like in October. So why not just take a gamble on him? And I think in the American League, um, it's kind of difficult because it's so wide open. But I just think the really dominant team in the American League happens to be the Detroit Tigers. Now, do I think they're going to trade for him? No, I don't think so because they already have like decent outfield spots. When I look at an American League team that I think needs to make a move for a guy like Luis Robert Jr., I look at the Kansas City Royals, who as we alluded to earlier, really struggling to find offense, but just power as well from their outfield. You look at Kyle Isbell, Drew Waters, Hunter Renfroe, like not great hitters, and I think like you don't have to pitch around them. You still kind of have to pitch around Luis Robert because of the home run power that he possesses.
Yeah, my two teams that I had picked for Luis Robert Jr. were in the American League. I picked the Texas Rangers as a potential
Mm,
center field spot just because they need offense and hopefully they think a change of scenery could maybe, bring the fire back in Luis Robert Jr.'s back because Marcus Simeon has been dog water this year.
hmm.
It's always like this with Simeon, where he'll have a
Yeah.
really good year, really off year, and then it just
Hmm.
kind of alternates in between then. But this year it's kind of stacked up as two back-to-back not that good years.
Hmm.
Um, but I thought or not the Orioles, the Rangers would really need someone like him. They let go of Leody Taveras. They've been kind of going in and out with Kevin Pillar and Evan
Hmm.
Carter. It's kind of been this, you know, this whirling dervish of center fielders. Like I said, they let go of Leody Taveras. So yeah, Luis Robert would be my perfect prime candidate for the
Hmm.
Texas Rangers. And for my NL team, I thought the Philadelphia Phillies would potentially
Mm.
be a team that could pick up the phone for Luis Robert Jr. Now, currently they have Johan Rojas, but Brandon Marsh has had negative point 0.8 WAR this season for Philly.
Yeah.
He hasn't been good at all, and they really could use the outfield help, considering that their corner outfielders are Max Kepler and Nick Castellanos. Not the greatest defense. Not Nick Castellanos is not a good defender.
Hey,
Uh,
keep my wife's name out your mouth.
yeah.
No,
Uh,
but you look at that Brandon Marsh trade and who the Phillies gave up for him, Logan O'Hoppe, with JT Realmuto kind of dying down with age. Don't you think they would have rather have Logan O'Hoppe at this current moment in time?
Of course. And the next candidate we have is Ryan McMahon, who's kind of been in the trade talks for multiple years now. And now
Hmm.
he's finally like, well, he's at the lowest of his value right now,
Hmm.
with a 208 batting average, 6 home runs, 720 OPS in Colorado
Hmm.
for an absolutely abysmal Rockies team.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on potential teams where he might end up?
Yeah, I'm going to start off with the National League again first. I'm going to go with the Chicago Cubs because I just think that's the one position in that infield where there's uncertainty. Yeah, you have John Birdie, a couple other guys. Matt Shaw, you thought was going to be, up there at third base, but it just hasn't worked out. I think they kind of didn't give him that good enough opportunity. Like, he didn't get many games in the MLB to prove himself, but. You look at Ryan McMahon, a Gold Glover at third base, has some years left on his contract with arbitration and whatnot, but that would secure an infield for a Chicago Cubs team that you can make an argument is the second best team in the National League and at times the best team in the National League. And then with him, like now you got Bush, Horner, Swanson, McMahon. Like you have a solid defense as well as a really, really solid offense. And I just look at him in the Cubs. Like the Cubs have some pieces that they can trade, move around to bring him in. And then you can also not put a ton of pressure on Matt Shaw, allow him to develop maybe a little bit more, bring him up whenever. But I look at the Chicago Cubs as I echoed. And the other team I look at is the Detroit Tigers, who obviously the best team in the American League. They're my pick to win the AL pennant. You look at that third base spot, it's kind of been a platoon at that position with Jace Young, Zach McKinstry spent some time there as well. But the Tigers just sent down Jace Young to AAA again. McKinstry can play anywhere, but if you just want to solidify that third base spot, why not get one of the best defensive third basemen in the game? He's kind of familiar with that ballpark metrics of Comerica Park, just given the metrics of Coors Field as well. And I just think it makes a ton of sense for him to go to the Tigers. And the Tigers, like as I said, like they can win the AL pennant with this roster. Why not just go all in, trade a couple prospects, and get a third baseman and solidify that corner spot?
Yeah, that's a really interesting team. The one that I picked for the American League was the Kansas City Royals, and I know they have Michael Garcia, but Ryan McMahon has played his decent fair share of second base, and Michael Massey has really struggled this season for the Kansas City Royals. And I
Hmm.
was thinking maybe, you kind of you put McMahon at second, and you just kind of run it from there. You keep Garcia at third, just
Hmm.
because there weren't really many other teams that I was looking at in the American League, and I was like, this team could use a third baseman. Like,
Yeah.
there's some teams where it's like Seattle, they have Ben Williamson, they're trying to, use him.
Hmm.
Uh, that was a team I was potentially looking at. The Blue Jays, well, they're trying to give Addison Barger more at bats, and they're trying to see what they got at him at third. So they're not really going to be looking to, stopgap him even more.
Hmm.
There weren't many other teams that I was looking at as
Yeah.
potential. Maybe the Red Sox need a third baseman, Rafael Devers. Um, but
Asshole.
yeah, um, but for my National League team, it was really kind of a struggle, and I ended up also coming down to the Cubs, and it was kind of it was kind of a lame boo pick to pick the Cubs, but like all the other teams that I'm looking at, like everyone in the NL West has a third baseman. You have
Hmm.
Machado, Chapman, Eugenio, and oh my God, the Dodgers third base. Am I
Muncie.
Muncy? Maybe Muncy, but I don't know. And then like all the other teams that I was looking at, like I don't really know who else could really use a third baseman that desperately besides the
Yeah.
Cubs who had called up Matt Shaw and he was struggling.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my two teams. And one of the last candidates we'll talk about is Tyler Anderson,
Hmm.
who's actually had a good season so far
Yeah.
compared to our other two candidates, with a 2.08 ERA, 1.6 WHIP, 39 Ks in 45 innings. And he was kind of in the talks last year for a potential trade candidate just because the Angels didn't really have anyone,
Hmm.
or could have been kind of looking for, people to sell off.
Yeah.
Tyler Anderson was an all-star last year with a 3.8 ERA,
Hmm.
but now it's like, what can they really get out of a trade deal for him? And I don't know, what were your thoughts on potential teams where he could end up?
Yeah, well, he's going to be a rental because I believe he's in the final year of that 3-year contract that he signed with the Angels. So you're not going to get a ton for him, but nonetheless, why not get something when you might not get anything for him when he leaves in free agency? So I look at a team like the New York Yankees who really, really need starting pitching help, and we don't know when Luis Gil's coming back. Will Warren has looked solid, just punched out 9 against the Seattle Mariners. Max Fried has been phenomenal. The only question is like, do they want another left-handed pitcher? Now, I don't know. So I was thinking about the Yankees as a potential one. Another team that I was really looking at was the Texas Rangers, who I think it's just more of an insurance thing than anything else because God bless him, I just don't know what's going to happen with Jacob deGrom. Do I trust Tyler Mahle for an entire season? I don't know. I really don't. But overall, like Nathan Eovaldi's been solid, but you just need another dog. Like you just and Jack
Yeah.
Leiter and Kumar Rocker, like they've had their moments, but I like you're not going into October with them on your roster, respectfully, this season at least. So those were two teams that I was in between. And then when you look at the National League side of things, it's kind of tough because a lot of these top teams have starting caliber pitchers. And if the Cardinals believe that they're going to be a decent enough wild card team, I think they should go and try to grab Tyler Anderson to add to their pitching staff because they have Sonny Gray, they have Eric Fetty, but they have Matthew Liberatore. The only problem is like they don't have a ton of left-handed pitching that's reliable. Like they really don't have any left-handed pitching in that rotation. And you need a lefty in October. Like you need something to make another team's lineup change a little bit and fluctuate throughout a series. So if the Cardinals by the trade deadline and around that time believe that they can be a wild card team, maybe a second or third wild card team, I think you got to go get Tyler Anderson.
Yeah, those are pretty fair spots. One of the teams that I was looking at as a potential American League trade candidate for Tyler Anderson was the Baltimore Orioles because if you have any mid-starting pitching, they'll give you goddamn top prospects for it.
Yeah.
But no, one of the actual teams I was looking at was the Toronto Blue Jays. Just because
Mm.
when the hell is Max Scherzer gonna pitch again? Is he even coming back this year? Like the question mark behind him and like this entire Jays team where, you know, they're currently tied for second, or they're a game under 500. They're currently kind of tied for second with the Boston Red Sox for second in the AL East. And
Hmm.
the Jays don't have a fifth starter right now. They're kind of going in
Yeah.
with Eric Lauer, and who the hell knows when Max Scherzer is coming back. And Bowden Francis had kind of a rough season to start so far.
Hmm.
So a team like the Jays could be looking to add to their rotation, and
Hmm.
why not do it with a rental, a guy who has is a lefty, who the Jays don't have a starting lefty in
Hmm.
their rotation, and
Yeah.
as you said, having a lefty is important. So for a team like the Jays that could be potentially trying to make a push, I don't know how possible it is with how stacked the AL Central's clogging up all the wild card spots right now.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's my one American League team, and then for my National League team. I was looking at a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks as a potential, get me over team for Tyler Anderson, just to kind of add to their starting pitching rotation, just
Hmm.
because Eduardo Rodriguez has really struggled.
Yeah.
A 7.05 ERA right now. Um, he hasn't looked good at all. It's looking like that contract's looking awful for them. Would they be willing just to take a flyer on a guy like Anderson, do a little rental deal and kind of shore up that end of the rotation and kind of move Rodriguez down, give him a phantom IL stint maybe,
Hmm.
just to let him get his head right because he's currently leading the National League in earned runs. It
Yeah.
hasn't looked good for him at all. But yeah, that was my one team where it's like the one lefty that the Diamondbacks do have has been atrocious. So maybe they should add to their rotation with
Yeah.
the good lefties. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, that'll just about do it for this episode of Breaking News Bears. I once again want to thank my co-host Evan Davis. I once again want to thank you guys, the listeners, listening every week to another episode of Breaking News Bears. Be sure to like and subscribe.